Hey, my name's Andrew, and if you ever looked at your photos and thought, man, these things are too good quality, they're very sharp in focus, and they look really crystal clear, and you thought, man, I wish there was something that would make my photos look more grainy and out of focus and lower quality, well, I have the perfect lens for you. Now, all joking aside, this lens is a very cheap little lens that is designed to put on your mirrorless camera, like something like the Canon M50 here, and get the same effects that you would if you were shooting on an old disposable camera. And right now it's really popular to get that kind of style look in your photos. So in this review, we're talking about this little lens, and I'm gonna explain how it works and all the pros and cons, and basically let you know if this thing is worth your money or if it's a piece of garbage. So let's dive into the review. So let's start off with the build quality on this thing. It's all cheap plastic, and yes, it does look like an Oreo for some reason. It's kind of like weird enough that it's like funny, and I actually really like that about this lens. Like, I don't know why they were like, yeah, let's make it look like a cookie, but I'm glad they did because it's just really funny. But yeah, it's all plastic, and there is a little like disposable camera lens element in the middle, and there's nothing on the back like electronic element to communicate with the camera. So what you see is what you get. Of course, it just mounts on your camera like a regular lens, but the one thing you'll have to do in settings is turn on the mode where it will fire the shutter without a lens, because as I mentioned, there's no electronic element. So basically your camera is gonna think there's no lens attached to the camera. So you'll have to go into your settings, do a quick Google search and figure out how you can do that. But there is a way on most cameras to fire the shutter without a lens on the camera. So you'll have to enable that mode. Now, when it comes to actually using this thing, it does very poorly in low light. It's also not gonna do a very good job like detail shots, close-ups on different objects. So as far as actually using this lens, you just kind of put it in the automatic mode and just start taking photos. And I've actually found using the flash really helps, because on all these old disposable cameras, they came with a flash, and some of them you could turn them on and off, and some of them just like standard only had a flash all the time. And so to get that same kind of film look, using the flash is really great if you're going to be indoors in a low light scenario. Like I said, it doesn't handle low light scenarios very well, but with the flash, it actually handles them better because it kind of has that same kind of like flash film look. So that's awesome. Now, another thing about this lens is it's super duper cheap. It's only $25. And it actually comes in a bunch of different mounts. So you can get it for the Leica M mount, the Fuji X mount, Nikon Z, even the Canon RF. The funny thing is, in the link that I'm putting in the description for this lens, the other versions don't look like a cookie. So if you have the M mount, you're gonna get the same one as me. If you have any of those other mounts, it's gonna look kind of more boring, but still gonna have like the same effect. Now, when you're taking photos with this thing, I've noticed when you put them straight into your phone and you go into Lightroom for editing, I found that there are some things that you can do to make it look more like a film photo, since it's still being, photos are being taken on that, mirrorless sensor. You're not gonna have that like original film look to it because it's not on film. Lightroom is a free app, so if you don't use that, download that on your phone. And then these are the settings that I would recommend doing. Number one, adding that film grain. I wouldn't like crank it up a bunch, but just adding a little bit of film grain is really nice to kind of have that same kind of look. So I notched the film grain up a little bit. I usually like to add a little bit of warmth to the photos, just a little bit. And then on the green and pink dial, I usually mark it over to the green a little bit, because a lot of these old disposable cameras were made by Fuji, and Fuji's film has kind of a green tint to it. Kodak's is kind of gold, Cinestill is blue, and Fuji is green. So if you want to have that same kind of like disposable camera that you're used to, that's typically a Fujifilm camera, and their colors are a little bit green. So I usually just subtle changes. That's mainly the big thing I'm trying to say, is anything you're gonna be adjusting, just do a little bit, don't crank it up too much. But yeah, film grain, a little bit of warmth, green, and then usually I won't do anything crazy, but maybe add a little bit of texture, maybe a little vignette, and that's pretty much it. If the photos need a little bit more exposure in the shadows so you can actually see what's going on, I might do that. But typically I don't try to edit them too much, but with a little simple edit, you're able to take your photos from okay to like actually kind of convincing that they were taking it on a disposable camera. So that is how this lens works. Those are my big helpful tips. And honestly, when I got this lens, I was fully prepared to make a review just like kind of making fun of it and saying, yeah, like it's not really worth it. But in fact, I think it is actually worth it. For $25, say you're on a night on the town, you're taking normal photos with a nice quality lens and getting photos that you would, want to print and share on your social media. But then maybe you want to just get a couple that look like they were taken on a disposable camera. And rather than, buying the film, paying for it to get developed, or buying the disposable cameras and paying for it to get developed, you can just spend $25 and get this lens and then snap some photos and then immediately be able to share them rather than waiting a couple weeks to get the photos developed. So I think that's a pretty cool feature and reason why I would recommend this lens. You can just kind of slap it on your camera and take some cool vintage shots and just be creative. I feel like this lens has, opened up the possibility to get those summer vibes that maybe you're looking for. Like I said, I was planning on saying this thing's a piece of junk, but it is a piece of junk, but kind of cool piece of junk. So if you do want to pick one of these up, there's a link in the description. If you have any comments or questions at all about this, I'm a pretty small channel, so I'll get right back to you. So leave those comments in the comment section below. And if this video was helpful, drop a like. If you want to see other budget gear reviews, consider subscribing. And if you do, I'll catch you in the next video.